Hello, and welcome to an episode of the Rich Woman Rising podcast. I'm your host, Eloise Tomkins, and I'm a money coach and psychologist. And I help women in business to heal their relationship with money using their nervous system, which I think is really cool because it's something that we don't talk about a lot when it comes into the money space. Because let's face it, a lot of us want to be really practical when it comes to managing money. And look, don't get me wrong. I always say this, managing money and being able to make practical decisions is a really good thing. Absolutely. The flip side of that is we can often find it really hard to do those said things. And the reason for that is because of how our psychology works. And not even just our psychology, but neurobiology. And don't worry, I'm not going to dive into the ins and outs of that today. But I guess the reason I share that is because so often we think that if we just know, if we have enough knowledge, knowledge is power, then we can change our behavior. And my gosh, I wish it were that simple. But honestly, I would be out of a job if it were that simple. Pretty much every industry would be, okay, maybe not every industry, but a lot of industries would be out of a job if it were as simple as just handing people knowledge and being like, okay, you have this information, be on your merry way. Knowledge does not integrate. Knowledge does not mean that we embody it. Knowledge does not mean that we change our behaviors because our behavior, the reason why we behave in a particular way is because it gets a need met. I was talking on a completely unrelated topic, like not related to money at all, with someone recently with my hairdresser, and we were talking about just how people can continue with behaviors that are really frustrating. And we were talking about why. We were kind of exploring how, like, it just meets a need in a particular way. And I want to unpack this a little bit today with a common money story that has been coming up. It always comes up, but it has been coming up particularly with a lot of my clients and even just out in the wild. Out in the wild, oh my goodness. Like just out in the wild in terms of like here talking to people, not even talking to people about money, but just, in these little tiny encounters that you have. I had to get my headlights on my car changed over, and the guy who put the new headlights in for me was talking about money. I have to work hard for money or something like that. And it just struck me as how all of these deep-rooted beliefs about money are just being said so flippantly with absolutely no awareness, which, obviously I'm very primed to money conversations, and I think it's the same in any industry, like you hear about doctors who specialize in skin cancers and they see someone on a plane and they're like, oh my goodness, I saw someone on the plane and they had a little spot on their nose and I knew it was a skin cancer. Do I tell them? So we all have our little unique areas. And so obviously I'm primed to be on the listen out for money. And I just find it really interesting. And that's why I have this podcast because I want to share it with you so that uh, that's a sign I need some coffee. That's a sign that I need to share it with you so that you can start to understand your relationship with money more. Because money doesn't have to be something, money doesn't have to be something that is hard. Money doesn't have to be something that's complicated. Money is not something that we need to overcomplicate and feel like we just can't get a handle on. However, our nervous system is convinced that it is dangerous or difficult to make money. And our nervous system holds all of that in our cells, right? Like, and this is the thing, like, we can't outthink our nervous system. Our nervous system, it doesn't care about thoughts. It really doesn't care. It doesn't speak that language. And so we're out there trying to just willpower our way to make different money decisions, and our nervous system's like, I don't think so. So I want to unpack this a little bit today, in terms of why we can't just change our behavior, and how flippantly, I guess, we say some of these beliefs and we don't even think about what we're saying. Like the words literally just pop out of our mouth and we don't even think about it. And to me, that just speaks to such a deeper problem, I guess, because if we're not even aware of it, how can we change it? So you have likely had the experience, like so many of us, where you would have heard at least one of these messages on some level in your family. And maybe it's money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy or selfish. Money is the root of all evil. We can't afford that. Put it back. Or maybe you were told just to be grateful for what you have when wanting more. Maybe you even heard your parents fighting about money, you know. And so what then happens is with those messages, they're not just messages that we hear. Think about when you read a book, if you're a reader. When I was a kid, I would read books and the words would come to life in my mind. And I would also feel. So the words, yeah, they were words, but they brought to life these vivid pictures in my mind, and they would also make me feel lots of things. Now, the reason I say that is because these messages that we heard were not just messages, they were not just words. Words have meaning, and that meaning gets stored as sensation. We cannot separate them. And so, if we had all of these messages or witnessing all of the experiences around money, in our household growing up, maybe there was stress or money being conflict, then we start to put together, oh, okay, well, I'm seeing that money is hard, money creates tension. And we then build our own internal narrative around money, right? And so we're building this internal narrative around money. And then we have cultural messages around money. My dad used to say to me, like, money changes people. Or you've got the starving artist stereotype. You can't make money as an artist. Or even as women, like we've got so many messages that come in. And what then happens is our nervous system has a response to that whenever we think about more, whenever we think about our goals. And we've got the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. But now we're an adult in our business and we haven't realized that we've left that, well, we think we've left that childhood behind, but we haven't. We have carried our childhood into our adulthood. I always find it amusing because people are like, oh, that was childhood. What does that have to do with things? And it's like, well, that little girl, we didn't just shut the door on her. She just kept day by day getting older. So those beliefs still continue to play with us, right? Like they're still there. And I see it so often. Like I see people who say things like, oh, I have a health condition, and what it means is I can't do as much as other people. Therefore, I can't make any more money. I'm limited by my health. Or they'll say things like, oh, money is just so hard. Like everyone wants to work less and earn more. Like, doesn't everyone want that? Implying that it's not possible for them. It's like, well, let's just have a little bit of a look-see at those beliefs, because if you're out there telling yourself that your health is the problem and that that's the thing that's going to impact your ability to create wealth, you are going to reinforce that. If you think that everyone else wants the same goal to earn more, work less, but it's not possible, like you just can't do that, then you are going to build a business model around that belief because our brain loves confirmation bias. Our brain loves to repeat patterns. It loves to reinforce what it already knows, what it already believes, what it already thinks is possible for you. So when we can, there's a few steps to it because one, we need to make a decision. Okay, yep, wealth is possible for me. I want it. Cool. And then we need to start unpacking, oh, well, at the moment, I'm thinking money is hard. There's barriers, and it might not be health. There can be a lot of other things, that get in the way. Time is a big one. I don't have time. I don't have the ability. I'm not capable enough. I don't have the skills. There are people out there who have little skills and qualifications that are earning way more than you are right now. Guaranteed that if they can do it, you can do it. I firmly believe that, anyone can, with nuance, I'm assuming that you have nuance and that you've got critical thinking skills and, you're hearing this as a conversation, but nuance, because I do truly believe that we are capable of making more money than what we think. And that belief needs to come from within us. We can't wait for somebody else to give us permission to make more money. We can't wait for something in our lives to change or get better. Nuance, again, nuance, okay? I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, but this circumstance and this circumstance, because otherwise I'll be here all day. But I want you to think about how your beliefs have informed how you've created your business. I'll give you an example. Now, oh, this is a little bit embarrassing. Oh my gosh. Didn't realize that I'd feel embarrassed about it. I was like, oh gosh, this feels a little bit vulnerable. But I remember when I started my business, gosh, it was kind of like I knew that I wanted to build a seven-figure business. And why I wanted to do that was because I'd come from this upbringing and belief system where money was not for someone like me. Men were the ones that brought in the money, although ironically, the men that I dated in the past earned less than me. I was always the one that earned more. So my dad was wrong on that one. Um, crazy. And then ironically, the woman that I dated was earning more than me, with no qualifications, ironically. Like, so money, I started to see money as just this weird, like, all of these belief structures that I had around money were starting to be presented. I'm like, oh, actually, they're not, it doesn't make sense. The beliefs that I've held that were starting to crumble. But when I built my business and I said to myself, I'm going to create a seven-figure business because when I put my mind to something, I will make it happen. I don't always have the roadmap on how, usually don't have the roadmap on how, but it'll happen and I'll figure it out. And so I spent the first year of my business like just trying to create a seven-figure business. And every decision that I made was filtered from that lens of seven figures. And I'm not going to lie, it was really stressful because I was trying to run a marathon without having done any training for the marathon. And all of the decisions that I was making in my business were coming from this place of like urgency and almost desperation when I look back and think about it, which understandably was really stressful. And that is just one example. Now I am building my business on foundations. I'm building my business in a way that feels sustainable. I'm building it in a way that feels really good for my nervous system. I'm checking in with myself. How does this feel? And I still have my goals, and the pressure has just been removed because it was unsustainable. And it was actually getting in my way of creating the said goal because I wasn't able to do that, right? And look, obviously, that belief is different to money is hard, but underneath that seven-figure goal was probably the belief that money is hard. You have to fight, you have to work hard for money, you have to be constantly on all the time. If you like, when I was growing up, I always had this belief that, or this, I mean, I guess it was belief, like nobody ever said it, but it was something that I'd internalized. My dad was earning what was a lot of money in my mind at the time, and he was just constantly at work, like constantly at work. And I remember thinking, like, well, if that is the amount of money that you get for that amount of hours, I don't want to work that hard. And so then I had seven figures in my mind, and I'm like, well, clearly that means I'm just going to have to work around the clock. Um, now I'm like, oh, actually, you know what? I work less now and earn more. I'm still not where I want to be, and that's okay because building the foundations, building the blocks, yada, 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 it'll come. I'm, building towards that. But that's, I guess, what I mean when we build a business around our beliefs. And it's not only our beliefs that we're building them around, we're also building them around our nervous system responses as well. Because the belief brings up that nervous system response. And, you might have had it too, where you've had this sense of just feeling really like this intense energy where it's just like, almost like panic, like, oh, I have to work really hard. Or maybe the flip side of that, which is just like the shutdown state of, oh, it just feels like too much. I want it, but I'll do it tomorrow, later. And you do stuff, but it feels like you're just going at a snail's pace. You know that you're capable of more. You just don't seem to have the motivation, the energy, the desire to do that in a way and at a speed that feels good for you. So those, and they're just some brief examples, but that's how your nervous system can show up. And that's what I mean about your nervous system and your thoughts and your beliefs. Like there's this mismatch. Hang on. No, that's not the right word. I can't think of the word. But like this blend of your thoughts, your nervous system, beliefs, they all interact with each other. And our job is to tease them apart. And one of the easiest places to start is often our thoughts. We can kind of tag some of our thoughts, we can start to tease some of them apart. And so that's my invitation to you, is to really think about your thoughts, those beliefs that are just there around money. And you're probably no stranger to them. I get that. You're not a stranger to those thoughts. However, the next step is the step of starting to be aware of them in real time. Being aware when you say them out loud. Now, that is going to be a challenge. This is the bit where it gets to be a little more sticky because we operate on autopilot. 95% of what we do, autopilot, 5% is conscious, which is wild because we think we have a lot more control than we do. We don't. But to actually change it, we need to just get more awareness in real time of our thoughts. When we start to get more awareness in real time of our thoughts, then we can start to just identify, okay then, all right. Like, what happened? I can't even remember what happened. I just remember hearing the dude at the car place say something about money being hard. And my response internally was just like, oh, that's really interesting. But I can't remember what he was talking about. I don't remember what the conversation, I think he was talking about being a mechanic and how you had to work hard as a mechanic or something along those lines. And I didn't say anything to him. I was like, not my place, not my circus, not my monkeys. I was like, interesting, pocket that. But then when you have that ability to be able to notice the belief and allow yourself to recognize this is a learned belief. this is not true, we can then start to unpack how it plays up in our daily decisions without judgment. We don't want to go in and judge these thoughts that we're having. And we also don't really want to go in there and try and replace that thought with something else. Because a lot of the times we'll think, oh, well, I've got this thought and I've listened to the podcast, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell that thought off and say, no, that's wrong. And then try and put another thought in there. And that doesn't really work. Actually, it doesn't work. Let me be clear, that does not work. If it did, again, I would be out of a job. It doesn't work. What we want to do is just notice these patterns. Notice being able to recognize with compassion when we are having those thoughts and just go, oh, wow, actually, this does show up quite a lot. It shows up more than I realize day to day. And you will probably find it showing up in lots of situations. You're at a coffee shop with a friend, and maybe the friend goes, oh, gosh, the price of coffee's gone up these days. Oh, it's ridiculous. Clock that. Start clocking other people's money patterns internally. Don't share it with them because they depends on your relationship with them. They probably won't appreciate it. Learnt from early psychologists back in the day when I was trying to psychoanalyze everything and everyone around me because I was putting all of my theory into practice. Not a good idea. Who knew? But sometimes it can be helpful to even like just look out for it and clock it with other people, because clocking it for other people can help us start to then clock it for ourselves. Because what we ultimately want to do is bring in new evidence where money, you know what's easy? Money flows effortlessly. And the way that we do that is by taking time to honor moments where money has felt good, money has felt easy, money has felt effortless, and we've just had an influx of money and it feels like it just landed without this nervous system response of feeling like we're in fight, flight, blah. Because currently your brain's programmed to look for evidence that money is hard. It's going to keep reinforcing that for you. What we want to do now is flip that, but because your brain is already primed, it's like muscle memory in a way. We need to actively filter in. Money is easy. So there's quite a few steps in there. You might like to pick one of them to whatever kind of feels good for where you're at right now, because this is how change happens. I talk about micro moments all the freaking time because I do think it's about these little micro moments that you can incorporate. And there's always going to be more micro moments that you can add, but picking a micro moment, starting there, and it's kind of like that idea of 1% every day. And eventually that 1%, boop, will be embedded. And then you can look at a different micro moment that you want to focus on. Because even though you have learned that money is hard, you can unlearn it. And we can acknowledge and thank our nervous system. I know that sounds really wacky, but we can thank our nervous system for protecting us. And now we have the opportunity to heal both our mind and our body, because money can actually feel safe for our nervous system, but our nervous system just needs to feel safe with that. And that money pattern felt safe for you in the moment, and it's no longer serving you in the way that you would like it to now. So let's learn something new. And if you want support with that, if you're here listening and thinking, I want to dive deep and I want to take my relationship with money to a new level, then hit me up. This is exactly the stuff that I work with my clients on. And how I do that is with incredible tools that hit the nervous system right in the eyes. And that sounds really more intense than I meant it to. I guess what I meant by that is like the work that we do is it's fast, it's powerful, and it helps get to the core of the issue really quickly. And we do that in lots of different somatic based ways with tools that I've drawn on from over 10 years in the therapy space. It's not therapy, but it definitely lends some of those techniques, which means that you get to smash through some of these blocks really, really quickly and step into that updated version of you. I like to call it version like 2.0, that has a healthier relationship with money, who can make decisions calmly, quickly, without fear, and money just feels easy. So if that sounds like you, head over to my website, book an alignment call, and let's chat about how I might be able to support you. Until then, I will see you all on the podcast next week. Take care, have fun in your business, and I'll chat to you soon.